Here's something I noticed after mentoring hundreds of students over the last 8 years. The ones who improve the fastest are almost never the ones who practice the most hours. No, they're the ones who practice the right things. So today I'm gonna give you the specific exercises, the daily routine, and the thinking behind it all that makes every minute of practice count. I've talked a lot about the psychology of learning in recent videos, but this time we're going to be talking about the practical side. So here are 4 things that you'll want to work on every single week if you're serious about improving. Some of these will be rather quick, others will be more involved, and we'll see how they all fit together in the next chapter. But for now, let's just see what these are. And by the way, it's the same stuff that's on my own schedule. So first up, we have gesture drawing. This is your cardio as an artist. Set a timer, pull up a reference of someone in a pose, just a standing pose if this is new for you, or a more dynamic pose if you're more experienced, and capture the energy of that pose in 1 to 3 minutes using as few lines as possible. This is more of an observation exercise than it is a character drawing one. The time pressure here is the whole point, and it will force your eye to find what matters and ignore everything else. This one exercise trains your observation, your proportions, your line confidence, and your speed all at the same time. And I personally use this app that was made by an independent developer for my drawing sessions, and I'll put the link to it in the video description if you want to check it out. Next, we'll work on construction. So you can grab any object near you, like this cup, for example, your headphones, a ball, a battery charger, whatever it is, and then you'll want to break it down into the simplest shape you can, like a simple box or a cylinder. And the key here is to draw it from observation, and then try to draw it again, but from imagination this time, and if you can, in different angles. So like drawing a box in different angles and then drawing a cylinder in different angles. That second part really is where most of the learning will happen, because you're forcing yourself to imagine an object in 3D space, just relying on your knowledge of it, having drawn it previously. If you're struggling with that, then you can just go back to your reference and then copy the reference and then try again in a slightly different angle from imagination. This is the exercise that builds your ability to draw from imagination, which is ultimately what will separate beginners from artists who can create whatever they want. The third exercise is master studies. So find a piece of art you love from an artist better than you and study it. Not just mindlessly copying it, but before you start, pick 2 or 3 specific things that you want to learn from it. Maybe it's how they handled the lighting, or how they designed the silhouette, or what their color palette is doing. Then recreate the piece with those things in mind. I would keep it to like an hour or 2 max, and the idea is to never really make a perfect replica. It's more about reverse engineering the decisions that someone more experienced made. And then finally, the most important one, the final piece every week. Like not a sketch, not a study, a personal piece that you'll take from start to finish. Although it can be fan art, or it could be an original character, an environment, like whatever you're into, really. And this is where all those drills will actually get applied to something real. And the struggle here is the most important part. Power through it. And when you get stuck, find a solution and apply it immediately. And then you just keep doing that until the piece is finished. And all of these will be the ingredients of your daily routine. And we'll look at that whole routine next, which is really the most important part. And these exercises, this daily routine, it's all going to be very important to get you started, very helpful to get you started. But that's just the beginning. Knowing which fundamental to prioritize in your studies and in which order, based on where you actually are in your art journey, that's gonna be a huge advantage, and that's what my art program is all about. It's the sponsor of this video. The art school program gives you the most optimized structure to your studies so that you're always practicing the right things at the right time. The version in this video is pretty generalized for YouTube, but in the program I actually take your hand week by week from the very beginning, with different tasks and exercises crafted from very easy to more complicated as you progress, going over 30 different in-depth classes on different art topics, so that by the time you're done with your final project, you'll not only have a complete portfolio, but you'll be able to draw whatever your mind can imagine. It's a massive program with over 31,000 students right now, and until the end of February, so just for a couple more days, you'll be able to get it at a huge discount to celebrate reaching that milestone. So check the link down in the video description for all the details. I think you'll be glad you did. It is a luxury, but if you can afford it, this is something that I would have personally killed for when I was younger. All right, now let's put this all together into an actual daily routine. Here's the system. I'll break it down into a 30-30-40 split. 30% of your practice goes towards gestures and drills, you know, like gesture drawing and construction drawing. So if you have an hour, that would be like 15 to 20 minutes tops, like 10 minutes of gesture, like 1 to 2 minute poses just to get your eye and your hand warmed up. And then 5 to 10 minutes of construction, breaking down objects around you in simple shapes. And I would say this is your non-negotiable practice time every day. Even on bad days when you're really tired for some reason, this is the bare minimum. Like it keeps your skills sharp and it gets you in the zone. But keep in mind, like this is if you're looking to improve as fast as possible, right? Like if you're not really worried about any of that, if you're kind of just more casual about it all, then feel free to skip this. Take it easy, you know, like take some days off. Now, another 30% will go towards targeted studies. So those will be your master studies, your anatomy work, perspective exercises, like basically whatever fundamental you're currently weakest at. So those would be like when you're drawing for fun, the walls that you keep running into. So this is the part of your routine where you're deliberately attacking your weak points, like fully engaging your focus. And again, if you only have an hour a day, this would be roughly like 15 to 20 minutes. Then the remaining 40% goes towards real work. Drawing stuff that you actually want to draw. So like I said, it could be fan art, it could be original art, environment, characters, whatever gets you excited. This is where JIT learning happens naturally because you'll hit walls and then solve those problems with the fundamentals that you've been studying. And again, JIT meaning just in time learning, what we've seen in previous classes. And again, I'll link the class down in the video description. Very important class, I think, if you want to maximize your progress. But yeah, the most important rule here is to finish that drawing. Like even if it's tough, even if you're like struggling halfway through, a finished piece that you're not necessarily thrilled with will still teach you 10 times more than like an abandoned sketch because you actually went through the struggle. Again, the struggle is the most important part. No struggle, this is no improvement. It's that problem solving and then finding the solution and then rinse repeat. It's that pattern that generates all the gains. And again, if you have about an hour, this would be like 20 to 30 minutes. Now, I know not everybody has an hour, so here's how to scale it if you have less time. If you have 30 minutes, I would do 10 minutes of warm-ups. In that case, I would just entirely skip the targeted studies and then just let the walls that you run into while you do real work, while you work on a personal piece, kind of guide the path of your studies. Guide what you need to learn. Again, that's just in time learning doing the heavy lifting for you. But maybe you're lucky and you have 2 hours or more to spend on this. Well, what I would do is I would still spend the same amount of time on drills and targeted studies as you would with 1 hour and put all the extra time into real work. Because really more drills won't help you at that point, but more finished pieces always will. And then maybe one more thing about consistency, because I can't stress this enough. 1 focused hour every day will always beat like 5 scattered hours during the weekend. It's not even close. Your brain consolidates learning between sessions, especially during sleep, like we've seen before. And daily short sessions like this will give your brain time to recover between sessions, process what you've learned overnight, and then come back fresh, ready to learn more. Weekend marathons, on the other hand, will just dump too much information at once, and most of it doesn't stick. So frequency always beats duration. So this is your routine. But before I let you go, here are some quick tips that I think will help you squeeze out even more out of this routine. So I have 5 tips in total. And the first one is to track your progress monthly. So just like you would do maybe if you started to work out, I would take a photo of your best work, maybe once a month, and then you compare it only in the days where you feel like maybe you're not progressing enough. When you need the little pick me up, you know? Like on a day-to-day, you really wouldn't notice much, but month by month, you know, if you're taking this seriously and you're sticking to it, you should notice a significant improvement. And this is an awesome way to stay motivated, you know, long-term. Second one is when you see art that you like online, don't hit like, you know, and move on to the next one. Stop for like a couple seconds, maybe like just 10 seconds and observe. Try to pinpoint what made you stop. Why does it work? Like, is it something with the lighting? Is it something with the way that they stylize the anatomy? Is it the color palette? This will cost you no time really, it's just a couple seconds, but if you do that consistently every time you find a good image like this, it's free observation skill points. The third tip is to alternate between comfort and discomfort. What I mean by that is that if every drawing feels easy, then you're really not growing. But if each drawing is a massive struggle every time, then that's also gonna possibly lead you to burning out. So that's not good. So what I would recommend is maybe like a 50-50, something that's hard and something that's familiar, or maybe a little bit less, like 30% of stuff that's really hard for you and 70% of something that's comfortable. So you'll want to fine tune the ratio that works for you, but it's really that uncomfortable part that will drive your progress. And fourth, your warm-up is sacred. So even on days where you really don't want to draw, still push through and force yourself to do either those 10 minutes of gesture drawings or 10 minutes of construction, whichever you prefer. And most of the time, once you get started, you won't really mind to keep going and, follow through the rest of the routine. Think of it as maybe like the warm-up being the on-ramp, for the highway. It's really there to help you get past the hardest part, which is just starting. And really, the more often you do that, the easier it gets to get started. Because there's this region in the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC. And it's often referred to as the hub of willpower, like tenacity and motivation. And this area of the brain actually physically grows the more you push through discomfort. Such as during exercises or learning new difficult skills. And the bigger that area grows, the easier things get. And I think it helps to know that it gets easier with practice. And finally, the last tip is to eliminate decision fatigue. Like decide what you're gonna do before you actually sit down. Because half the time most people spend working on their art is just trying to find what to draw. So whenever you have an idea, whenever you see something that inspires you, like write it down, like write a list so that whenever you sit down, you have things that you can go through. Just pick one of your existing ideas. And preferably you want to plan the next day ahead. So like what you're gonna do tomorrow, plan it today. So there's no hesitation. When you sit down, you should already know what you're gonna be doing. My art program is great for that because it gives you exactly what to do every week. But if you're resourceful, you should be able to find out yourself. Now, look. Talent is a word that people use to explain results they don't understand. But what actually separates fast improvers from everybody else is efficiency. The right exercise in the right proportion done consistently. You now have all of that, and the only variable left really is whether you do it or not. Now, if you want to dig into the psychology part that I was referring to at the beginning of the video, which to me personally is the most interesting part, I would highly recommend you check out the video that is going to appear here on screen in just a second. I break down the method to help you increase any skill, in this case, art skills, so fast that it's almost unfair. The same method that I use unknowingly to land a job as a professional concept artist at just 17 years of age. I'll see you over there.